Hey everyone, it's Blair here at Time Trades. Thanks for joining me this long weekend. Today is Monday, February 19th. Apologies for the one-day delay in getting the video out. I was not feeling well yesterday. I'm much better today, though. So what I want to cover is the usual sequence, but I've got some very interesting discoveries to share, starting with something I found about the moon and the ruler. But before we get into that, we'll give a rating for last week's forecast. It's up on the screen here. This is where we left things off. We expected to see a higher high between Thursday and Wednesday. And what we saw was actually a lower high on Friday and then sell off. So Friday was a pretty big outside down day on the NQ. That fell right in our timing window, though. So I'm going to give myself a B for getting that timing right. Definitely did not get the price right. I thought we had the juice to push up a little bit higher up here, but we were not able to. Okay, so we'll give ourselves a B for last week's effort. Now I'm going to walk you through what I see happening over the next couple of weeks, starting with that discovery on the lunar cycle. So if we drop down to a 4-hour here and reset the chart. By the way, this chart is throwing a bunch of errors on TradingView because I've got too much stuff on the chart. So bear with that. We'll let things redraw here. Now, what I want to show is something I discovered with respect to, with respect to the moon. And if we turn on, actually, let's start with planetary lines. We'll turn off time trades. We'll turn on planetary lines. We'll configure planetary lines so there's no speed index because it doesn't work great intraday yet. And what I want you to focus on here is where the gray lunar line, so this gray line here is the moon, and focus on where that has this vertical line, because this vertical line, it's not a bug, it's actually where the moon crosses 0 degrees Aries, and the degree, it basically wraps around the circle. Okay, so the longitude goes from 360 to 0. So that creates the vertical line here. And if we scroll back in time, you'll notice that each time there's a vertical line, starting with December 2023, there's a drop shortly after. And then the next one, there's in January 2024, there's a drop shortly after. And then the next one was last week, and this was the CPI drop. So this is a very interesting pattern. So what I did to explore this a little bit more was I anchored rulers to the low immediately following this vertical line here. And let's unhide those, and you can show how they're configured, or I can show how they're configured. This first one is anchored to the spike low immediately after the vertical line, and we've got sidereal moon, which is the lunar orbit compared to the background stars. Okay, so this isn't lunar phase. That lunar phase, full moon, new moon cycle is synodic moon. So we've got sidereal moon at 90 degrees. Okay, and that's it. And what we see here is a high around 90 and a low roughly around 180, and then another high at 90, and then the cycle completes at 360. Okay, let's take a look at the next one. We'll unhide this ruler. Now this ruler is similarly configured. It's anchored to the low immediately after this lunar crossover here. Okay, so this is the lowest low was reached on this 4-hour bar. And again, we've got 90 degrees of the moon, high around 90, low around 180, and then a higher high here between 90 and 360. Okay, similar to the previous cycle, which saw a higher high between 90 and 360. You see the similarities. This is pretty cool. Now let's take a look at the third cycle. The third cycle is over here, and it's anchored to this low. That was the bottom of the CPI sell-off last week. And again, we've got 90 degrees of sidereal moon. So what we can expect based on this is a low around 180, which is next Tuesday, the 27th. Okay, so that's one data point. All right. The next thing I want to share with you is a change I made in my configuration to the planetary lines. I have changed the scaling to be 2250. And the reason for that is I'm going back to using this table here in the that is now part of the user guide. Now, this table is found under the ruler script, but these values can also be used for configuring your planetary lines. And what I did was I used the all-time high of 16,767.5. That was the 2021 all-time high. Of course, that's been exceeded now. And divided that by 8, the way we usually do, and we get 2095. The closest value to that on this table is 22.5. And then you play around with the decimal point, that becomes 2250. And what I found is that actually gives better hits on the chart than the previous setting. Okay, so going forward, I'm going to be continuing to use that all-time high divide by 8 method, but I'm also going to be normalizing that number using the table found here in the user guide. And this table really kind of forms the intersection. Let me just find that table here. Here we go. This table here really helps to create the intersection between numerology and astrology, because all the numbers here have a digital root of 3, 6, or 9. So if you add up the individual digits here on all of these, they're all either 3, 6, or 9, which of course is Tesla's keys numbers. All right, so let's go back to TradingView, and we're going to continue to build our future forecast here. We've got this powerful discovery indicating 180 degrees of the moon is important, and that's landing next week on February 27th. Okay. And if we zoom back out to a daily view, all right, then we can see that we've got moon in Virgo coming up. That often tends to indicate drops. Okay. So moon in Virgo is right after Leo. Okay. So that's right over here. And the other thing that I want to mention is we're on the right side of the Mars-Uranus cycle. So if we turn off some of these rulers, we don't need these anymore. And if we turn on our longer term ruler, let's turn off time trades. So this is the Mars-Uranus 15-degree cycle anchored to the old all-time high of December 27th, okay? And this continues to spit out the very strong cycle tops. And that is hitting on Tuesday. This is why I'm bearish going forward, is as we progress on the backside of this cycle, I'm thinking that we see a potential for a lower low. Okay, so Mars-Uranus 15 is hitting on Tuesday. This is an important cycle, and it's been very accurate in the past. Okay, let's also take a look at the speed index here. So if we turn on the speed index, we can see that this is made a turn, and it's bottoming also around Feb 27. Okay, so this is this is another key day for us. We've got that speed index bottom coming up on the same day as our lunar 180 cycle. But that's happening next week. All right. Now let's go and take a look at time trades and take a look at the updated probabilities, and then we'll build our new forecast. So one of the things that I've done over the last couple of weeks is I've embedded some of the learnings from the new visualizations and charting tools like the planetary lines and the ruler into the machine learning. And and this is visible on both the forecast going forward. You'll notice the forecast has changed. And it looks different than what you would have seen last week. And also that's reflected in the influencers. One of the things you'll see in the influencers is a lot more heliolongitude values. Okay, so those are quite common now, and also the synodic speed. So one of the things I took a look at is based on the importance of the synodic cycles. I've added the speed of those synodic cycles to the machine learning, and this is becoming a very important influencer. Now, remember, all you see on the screen is the top 100, and this is out of 1,300 different data points that are used in the machine learning. So this is filtering a massive amount of data and identifying the ones that have the most important influence over, in this case, pivots. This is confirmation that the synodic intervals that we see here on the chart are very influential over pivots. So one of the ways that you can use this information is you can put these synodic intervals onto your chart using the ruler. Okay. And what else do I want to mention here? One of the other things that you might see is this thing called R dot, helio R dot. R stands for radius, so this is just the naming convention from my data that I get from NASA. So it's heliocentric, and that's the distance from the sun to the planet. So when you see R, that means radius, that's a distance. And when you see dot, that's basically the first derivative of distance, which is speed. Okay. So as what this means is that as Saturn or as Venus radially approach the sun or radially move away from the sun, that is also important. And you can see that also some asteroids are important here as well, like Ceres and especially Mercury. Okay, so if we go back to the probability chart, what do we see here? We see a pivot on the 21st, okay? And then we see another pivot low on the 29th. Another thing I want to call out here is the wheel of 24. We've got Venus in the north node on the Qs, and this is scale to 0.5. And when Venus crosses the north node, we tend to have a reaction. So you can see that often it's a minor reaction. Sometimes it's a major reaction, like over here, December 28th, we got a big push down to January 4th, right? In this case, over here on December 8th, we did not get much of a reaction, but usually we do get a bit of a reaction here on this cross. Of course, the best one over here is down October 30th, just before we crossed into Venus interval 2, right? And that was an indication of a huge bottom. We also have this pivot coming up between, or this event coming up between basically February 22nd and 23rd. That's Thursday, Friday. And of course, we all know what's happening. I think it's Wednesday after the market is after the market close is NVIDIA earnings. So one of the things that I'm trying to incorporate into this is, you know, imagining what would happen if NVIDIA announced a split. We'd probably see a big pop up on Thursday when after that split announcement. Okay, so as we look at our forecast, I'm just going to unhide the forecast here as I try to incorporate all this stuff into a go forward forecast. I'm seeing a potential for a pop up later in the week. And based on this potential in NVIDIA news. But remember, we're still on the backside of the Mars-Uranus cycle. We're still on the backside of the speed index. If there's any concerns about NVIDIA's ongoing growth here, it could be a pretty abrupt slide. So looking ahead into next week, I do think we make a lower low here. And this is primarily based on the position of where we are in Mars-Uranus and that lunar cycle that hits 180 degrees in this time frame. So if we go and take a look at that, we can display that. So here's 180 degrees right on Feb 27, Feb 28. And we've got a bottom of the speed index on Feb 27. And from a price standpoint, the top of this line is based on prior corrections after the lunar cycle. So I was just measuring fib levels based on past lunar cycles, and this would be a 50% correction of the past lunar cycle. And down here on the bottom, we've got this price based on the south node. Okay, so that's our forecast. Now, again, I want to stress that this is just a forecast. You have to trade price. You have to trade the price action. And do not anticipate this line happening. It may or may not happen. You need to manage your risk at all times here. And this is really just education to show how the time trades tools can be used to create a forecast. This is not financial advice. All right, with that being said, we've got our new forecast here. We'll see how this plays out. I'm going to come back next with my take on Bitcoin. Thank you. All right, so we're back with Bitcoin, and I want to continue the thought process that I had from the previous couple of weeks where I had this discovery of how the Mercury Earth synodic cycle moved through these patterns of compression and then stretching, and then now we're moving into compression. And in fact, this last pump coincided with the resumption of the compression stage, right? So if you measure the time frame between these labels, you see they're getting closer and closer together, and that started right here between January 31st and February 8th. Now, I mentioned that I added this synodic cycle to the machine learning. So let's go see what that says about the importance of that Mercury Earth synodic speed. Okay, so here we are in time trades, and we're looking at the influencers for Bitcoin. We're not looking at the chart. You can see how heliolongitude, critically important, both for Venus and Mercury, along with lunar declination, along with the juice indicator. But as we scroll down, we see the very first synodic speed aspect or synodic speed element is the Mercury-Earth synodic speed. There are other synodic speeds here, like Mercury-Mars, Venus-Earth. Okay, so those all contribute a lot, but the number one synodic speed contribution to pivots is the Mercury-Earth synodic speed. Okay. And if we go and look at the moon, let's see if that, or sorry, of the moves, let's see if Mercury-Earth synodic speed shows up here. Interestingly, when it comes to big moves, we've got Venus-Mars synodic speed as number one. Okay, let's see what else we got. Synodic speed. There we go. So Venus-Mars is number one when it comes to moves. So maybe that's something that we should get on our chart as well. Venus-Earth is number two. Saturn-Uranus is number three. And then Mercury-Earth is kind of middle of the pack here. Now, mind you, look at how all of these synodic speed items are among the top 100. Like, this is insane. This is out of 1,275 various data points that are considered by the machine learning to build a move forecast. And it is determined that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, these 9 synodic speed aspects are among the top 100. So basically the top 1%, right? So, well, maybe not 1%, maybe like top 5%, still super, super influential. Okay, so that point is made. Let's go and take a look at what we're seeing here. We flip over and right now we're looking at Binance. So if we go and take a look at the price action over the weekend, okay, so let's take a look at the planetary lines and how I've got these configured, okay? So really simply, north node, south node, Mercury, Helio, that's it, okay? And the dollars per 360 degrees is 56.25. I updated that over the last week, I believe, using the new method I described on NQ, okay? So again, normalizing things to the values found in this table, you'll see 56.25 over here under 360 divided by 2. Now, of course, this is just my preference. There may be better numbers that work better for your time frame and your trading style. Okay, so what we see here, and if we zoom in over the weekend, we can see that on Saturday, we got a wick down to the north node level. And I love the way this was bought up, okay? And since then, we've been holding above Mercury and now holding above this magic level at 51,805, okay? So very bullish price action, very strong. And you can see how influential as well the lunar declinations. Remember, the blue and yellow are coming from the time trade script. These are declination events, okay? So blue is extreme southern declination, yellow is extreme northern declination. And you can see how they've been important lately. We have a yellow over here, and price has been consolidating into yellow. Also, the other thing that catches my eye over here is coming up, we've got Mercury crossover, Mercury Helio crossover March 4th, March 5th. And the last time we had a Helio crossover was, well, 88 days ago, and that's the Helio orbit of Mercury. And that was over here in December 7th, December 8th. And look at what happened after that. We got the big dump from 44.6 down to, and the magic level held here down to 41. Okay. So pretty important timing here on Mercury. But look what happened in the run up to that crossover. Like, this is huge. So big pump ran up into it. So this is why I'm bullish on Bitcoin through early March, is this helio Mercury cycle seems to be very important for Bitcoin. Let's see what happened the last time we had a crossover. Did we get a similar run up? And it looks like it would have happened somewhere over, no, here it is. Well, it kicked off the entire bull market, really. So we're over here, 2023-09. So this is September 2023. We got the last helio crossover. So look at that incredible move up into the next helio crossover for Mercury. And now we've got the next cycle coming up in early March. So very bullish on Bitcoin, given all of this, given the price action, given the way these wicks get bought up. And the overall news flow is of course very supportive, the macro environment supportive. And we're starting to see the compression happening here, which we know of the Mercury Earth synodic cycle, which we know is really important. So this could very well continue pumping all the way through the end of Venus interval 2. Okay. So that's something to watch out for. But at my outlook is I'm looking for a continuation of this bullish move through early March. And then we'll reassess then and see what happens after that through the end of interval 2. When Bitcoin gets going, it can go end to end pump mode through the entire Venus interval 2. Okay, I'll be back with gold. Okay, so we're taking a quick look at gold here. In short, we had that bullish play that was reflected here in this yellow arrow. This did not pan out as the cycles are not repeating in the way that they did in the past. All right. So I'm struggling, to be honest, to build a coherent forecast on gold at the moment, and I think that's okay. I think it's fair to stand aside every once in a while. I had my point of view and my thesis that was proven wrong, and I think I need to do a bit more research now on gold to find an updated thesis. Based on, of course, the sun ruler, the sun lines, and the latest price action and cycle behavior. One of the things I don't like here on the bullish side is how we dropped below the south node. Okay. And yes, while you could argue this is a bullish hammer, it hasn't really bounced really strongly off of that the way that it did over here, for example, right? So I do like to use these node levels as reversal levels, and that is primarily my trading style. I do like to look for reversal opportunities. But again, just not seeing the kind of pump coming up out of this south node zone that I like to see. I prefer to see something like this, where there's a strong gap coming up out of it, that sort of thing. Plus, we've got this 1 year cycle coming up on March 7th, and then following that, the solar year crossover. So there's a bunch of cycle opportunities here that need to be researched a bit more, I think, before I present a coherent forecast. So I'm just going to hide this arrow and take it off the screen. I'm going to hide this old arrow. This one worked really well. And we're going to take some time to build a new thesis here on gold. Okay, that's it for me. Thanks again for using time trades, and please reach out to me with any questions. Remember, always manage your risk, trade the price action, combine the price action with the planetary levels and the magic levels, and good luck this week. Thanks very much. Bye now.